Hi and welcome to the 89th Webmaster Central and Web Search Hangout. We're going to be discussing, I guess, all sorts of things this week. So let's start with a round of introductions. Let's start with Barry, work our way through.
I'm Barry Schwartz. I like to cover search. That's about it. Next up, I guess, with Sam.
Michael.
Hey, it's Michael from Be Found Online in Chicago. I'm a search engine optimization specialist.
Robert.
I'm Robert O'Haver, search engine optimization and marketing expert with Internet Ad Pro.
I'm with Sam Denda from Daytona Beach, Florida, international SEO consultant. That's about it.
That's it. And I'm Sash. I'm an international SEO disaster recovery specialist. Right. Okay. So what are we talking about this week? Kind of jumped into this at the last second.
I've got a question.
I could be better prepared. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I've got something to start with. I mean, if you guys want to jump in with a question.
Definitely.
So I've had a situation come up where I've had more people asking about moving an entire site to secure. You know, traditionally, I think the traditional school of thought behind it is certainly like, no, don't do that. That's crazy. But there seems to be more justification for it. My knee-jerk reaction is still to say no, but it's opened up a Pandora's box of opinions. So we thought we'd bring it here and see what everybody thinks here about this.
So the question is, should you move your site to SSL or not?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a site that exists currently in non-SSL. The client has given the idea to move it to SSL, and you know, we're wondering if that's a good idea. Now, on the secondary thought is, if we are going to do that, you know, obviously test it somehow first and see if it's really going to make a performance difference from where we are before.
But is it a small site, or is it? I mean, what kind of dependency is on the site, like from?
I wouldn't say it's a medium-sized site. It's not a huge built-out, you know, e-commerce platform, but it's got a good amount of pages to it for sure. You know, let's say 50-50 for lack of conversation.
It is an e-commerce.
It has e-commerce elements. It's not a true e-commerce site per se. You know, the front of the site is definitely more of a regular front-end website, I would say. So the question is really, do we move that front end to secure? You know, what is the justification for that? And secondarily, is that going to cause performance or ranking decreases?
If it's easy to move, meaning if they're not going to be tremendous technical difficulties, because a lot of old sites have a lot of stuff that could cause a lot of issues with moving it, I would probably go ahead and do it. If you set up the redirects properly, my gut feeling is that there will be a positive impact from it, not maybe today, but maybe in a year from now. I have a feeling that Matt Cutts has big say in Google, and he really wants sites to be SSL by default. So, and I've seen Matt Cutts as well as John Mueller say there will be no negative impact of doing so as long as you do it right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good perspective.
Yeah. I mean, so far I have like 2 clients actually moved them to SSL. It wasn't that brisk, easy, unless I mean, it was my first one I did probably the last 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you have to basically, study it. Because I think on Yoast blog.
Yeah, they have a great post about it actually.
Exactly, they have a couple testing tools. After you finish everything, you can run the test, and it's very good.
Awesome.
Also.
Thank you. That's a good. I didn't see the testing tool, but I saw the blog post.
Yeah.
Well, as far as it goes, I mean, I don't really want to say too much, but I would definitely say that over the medium and long term, it should become a goal to start going secure.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good perspective. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is related to like to server load speeds, but as SSL servers get faster, I mean, it does make sense that you'd want the additional layer there.
I mean, some speed process. I think there's the. I mean, unless it's. I forgot the post exactly what it talks about. I'll forget it. It's a Friday. Can't think.
I'll find it.
Barry, you really think it'll be as soon as a year?
You know what I mean? It's more SEO work for you. But truthfully, it's better. It's better because then Google's has a harder time spying on you, or the NSA, or whoever you want to call it.
Isn't it the same?
Pretty much.
Google Glass is the link between the two.
So yeah, any other questions? Or I could just bring up some topics.
I'm guessing you're bringing up some topics.
Who's the moderator here? Who's in charge?
Well, officially me, but I'm kind of in off the deep end here, so
Okay, what are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Oh dear. Lemon water.
Lemon water.
All right.
And if we could get Yingling in these parts, I'd have one too.
All right. Let's see what was interesting. So anybody read that thing from Josh Bachniski? How do I pronounce his last name?
Bakinski. I haven't yet, actually.
Bakinski, yeah. Josh. He came to the Hangouts a couple times.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be turning up, actually, as it goes, but no sign of him yet.
Maybe I'll tell him to join. I'll do that now. Anybody want to summarize what happened, or do I have to do that also?
Well, I haven't actually read it yet. I've had a couple of people saying, read it, but I haven't had a chance. I was traveling until yesterday. So if you want to summarize, that'd be great.
All right. Were you at Google?
No, I was in Louisiana, and then I was up in Dallas, and I've just been driving. I don't know. I've lost track of the amount of miles I've driven the last week.
Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Fredericksburg, Texas.
And you live?
Cyprus.
I've kind of got a base here, and then I'm in Cyprus, and I'm in the UK, and hey, look, life's complicated.
As long as you get paid well, that's all that matters.
That's about the size of it.
All right. So back to ethics. So Josh basically had a private conversation with Matt Cutts at XMX West a couple months ago. Josh
decided to go public with it.
Which is interesting in terms of ethics itself, but he says his ethical dilemma, he couldn't withhold the information he had, and that was more of an proper ethical choice than not coming out with it. Anyway, and it's not uncommon for people to have long private conversations with Matt Cutts while at conferences. He's known to do that with a lot of people.
Until now.
Until now, right. That being said, he basically went ahead and posted the whole entire conversation, according to him, and Matt Cutts' responses, according to him, on a site called The Moral Concept, right, themoralconcept.net. And basically he summarized his points of objection in terms of why Google's being unethical or being immoral or whatever it might be. Specifically, one, Google does not have the moral authority or justification to penalize sites using algorithms such as penalties, such as Penguin and whatever, specifically because I believe one of his reasons was because there's no clear-cut way to get out of that penalty, and two, there's no clear guidance as to when you'll get out of that penalty. So if you're hit by a Penguin algorithm, it's not clear what you exactly did in order to be punished for that, and two is there's no clear idea when you'll be out of that penalty box. And there's some other things he said, and I'm not going to summarize everything. He could do a better job. You can read the site. Two is stealing content from people's websites and putting on the knowledge graph, which we discussed several times in this Hangout in the past. is stealing. It's unethical and it's pure stealing. That's what he said. And if you maybe compensated publishers for it, that'd be great or whatever. But it's pure, theft. 3 is that using human penalties or manual actions are also against morals and ethics and stuff like that, because again, Google doesn't have the right to go ahead and wipe somebody's business out, according to him, because it's not a correct or ethical punishment. And then he goes in and explains, Matt Cutts, how Matt Cutts said certain things like, there's the reasons behind these problems is because there's technical limitations to some of them, or they were actually considering compensating webmasters for the knowledge graph panel, or things like, or just disagreeing with him in general. Again, Matt Cutts has not said what he really said, or he hasn't refuted this. He just basically said he had the conversation and it happened. So it's pretty interesting to see, all this information. He wrote a really nice post. I mean, it was a really long read, and I definitely recommend if you just print it out or read it whenever you have time. The truth is, a lot of people are saying, hey, it's Google's search engine. It's like if you walk into my house and start trashing it, I have the right to kick you out and maybe even get you arrested and punish you that way. But he's saying if you know ethics, and he's a half of a PhD in ethics, then technically that might be right, but what Google's doing is completely unethical and against ethics. So I don't know if any of you guys actually read this in detail and had any feelings about it.
I haven't yet.
Who has? Raise your hand. So 2 people? All right, so who wants to I'm curious. Robert, you start. What do you think?
One thing that bothered me was allegedly, and I said allegedly, that Matt Setz had made the comment that he's trying to get rid of SEOs in that comment. Do you see that?
I believe, and I spoke to Josh about this several weeks before he actually published it. My impression is that Matt Cutts was just being sarcastic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I wasn't there. I think that was Josh's take from it, that he was being sarcastic.
Okay.
Anybody else have any thoughts or comments? Believe it, disbelieve it, or whatever?
I think he had some really good points. I guess Matt was kind of thrown back at, I guess his knowledge of ethics, and, obviously he has a master's and PhD and all that stuff. So.
Well, you got to keep in mind, again, Matt, this is just his story. Matt has not told his story.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's a one side. It's just one side.
The thing is, from my own conversations with various people within Google, the idea is not to get rid of SEOs. Far from it. The idea is to get rid of cheats. Yes, certainly.
Yes.
To weed out a certain element, but like the war on SEOs, no. That's absolutely, that has never been a factor in any of my talks with any of them. Yeah,
that's been my thought as well.
Talking about that, getting rid of cheats, there was another interesting post that I saw by a black hat person that his story is interesting. So basically, he lived in Sweden. He was a consultant like most of us. And he's like, why am I making all these guys so much money? Why don't I just do it myself? So he decided to go ahead and leave Sweden, go to some cheaper place to live, start up the affiliate site stuff. He was a programmer, so what he did was he was able to actually take what he was doing that worked and replicate it using programs to make it to increase it by 350 sites, which most good black hats do in terms of trying to monetize stuff on the affiliate world or whatever. And he was doing great. He was killing it in payday loans in certain countries. And then his competitors were, mocking him and doing things with him, and he never responded. Eventually, one of his competitors outed him to Matt Cutts. Supposedly, he got slapped the next day, and all of his sites, all 350 of his websites were gone. The interesting part was not that whole conversation. The whole story was pretty interesting in itself. Is 2 things. One is that he is not angry with the competitor who outed him. He's actually respectful. Like he says, he's respectful to him. And 2 is he actually tweeted to Matt Cutts, which I find a little bit weird. I do appreciate your efforts of improving the SERPs, obviously the search results, even though I was the one who got penalized. So he's not angry. He's not upset. He's happy that Google weeded him out and made the search results much cleaner.
I don't know if he's happy.
Well, there's obviously a man who's made enough cash for his own liking and doesn't need it anymore, you know.
So I thought that would be interesting. And again,
it is an interesting response given the fact that most of them that get caught, well, first of all, come running into the Webmaster Central forum and start bitching about how it's unfair.
So
definitely
again,
a different kind of response.
So it's interesting if you think about the two stories. Matt Cutts himself responded after that saying, great, let's see if you decide to build something that's more new, that's unique in the future, because that's
something
Matt's
worthwhile.
Goal. That's Matt's and his team's goal, is to basically break the spirits of black hats, to encourage them to actually take the white hat way. And it's, I don't know, it's just interesting to see those people talk like that. So anyway, those are two outside of the SEO realm.
In your case, it's a white yarmulke, right?
Totally two different things. It's interesting because black hat in the Jewish world means more modest, or more, I guess, more white hat it would mean in the Jewish world.
I never really thought about this hat that I've been wearing until then.
All right, let's go into other things. Let's talk about links, right? Unless somebody else wants to talk, I don't want to hog the whole entire conversation. No?
I'd like to get some feedback on something Michael brought up last week about Nofollows. If we're going to talk about links.
Sure. What do you want to repeat? What's your question?
I wanted to get your feedback as far as, obviously Nofollows, they don't pass link juice or anything like that, but as far as you see it in your Webmaster tools, Nofollows show up there. Do you think it at least counts for, at least a credit for, a link to your site?
No.
Okay. I'm curious because I wonder why it would be showing up in Webmaster tools if it wasn't counted.
I look at it as, there's multiple signals, but I can see that sometimes if there's a nofollow for a specific link and there's text around it, it can help give them signal what that link is about.
Yeah, I've got no proof, but I mean, to me, it just I still fall into the same place where I feel
it doesn't pass anything. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, from ranking, probably have nothing to do with the ranking perspective, but from just it can tell anything. If you look at images, if the image text around it, it can actually help give more attribute to that specific something, href, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this is
that's what I was trying to.
This is how I look at it. It doesn't have probably no ranking thing, but it might be a signal in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it falls into somewhat of the same conversation like we had with SSL. Like maybe it doesn't mean something now, but it might later. I mean, I don't know. I really have no proof of this one, but to me, it starts to feel more and more every day like nofollow links are feeling like the most trusted ones.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I got no proof, but I'm going to be watching carefully.
Take it away, Barry.
It's an interesting statement. What are you actually basing that on?
I just feel like as link evolution and nofollows, follow links that used to be follow links become nofollow, the places that I see them more commonly tend to be the more trustworthy places, be it higher quality publications or blogs that are taking their blog and making it work with Google's current set of rules. And I mean, in link building world now, I almost want to tell a client to go ahead and target nofollow links because while that might not be counting, you're playing in a super high value marketing space that obviously has other benefit outside of the SEO too. So.
Well, certainly, if you have to benefit outside of the SEO,
Yeah, and I mean,
then totally, it's just. Okay.
It feels like PR and SEO converging.
Right on. Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
All right, talking about links. Harrow. So this week, Bill Hartzer, a good, fun guy in the SEO space, went ahead and posted on his blog some really link-baity title tag or headline, which I would probably do the same. And he basically said that let me just read his title tag just because it's really interesting the way he put it. Sorry. Google flags help a reporter out, which is the HARO, press release links as bad links. Now, I don't know if you know what it is, but basically it's a service where experts, like us, we're all genius experts on SEO, could go ahead and say we are an expert on SEO, and then journalists will come out and reach out to us and say, I want to interview you for X, Y, Z because I know you're an expert in SEO. Now, some people do that just to get company mentions, or some people use it for links. Some people just want to be in the paper all the time because they like to see their face and their name in the paper. And some of these people actually pay for expert advice. Likely not most of the time. So basically, Bill Hartzer said, Google gave my client an unnatural link notification because of those HARO links. And I'm like, what? So wait, you're saying HARO has links on their site and they pointing to your client's website and you were actually penalized? They said, no. It's actually because we were interviewed. That interview was actually published on a few different websites. And because of that, those websites that were mentioned were actually linking to my client's site, and that was called Unnatural, and that's where I got a penalty from. And the truth is, if you looked at those things and you look deep, and he didn't share the links to anybody else, but I saw the links, and you look deep at those links were actually keyword-rich links for most part, most passing links, passing juice, plus they were on somewhat sketchy, some of them were sketchy-looking sites, and some of them were like articles based off the original article. So it was like, it seemed like somebody pushed, saying, here's the article that this site wrote about me, you should write about it too, and kept pushing that with the request probably of getting links from it using keyword-rich anchor text. So I don't think, and there's a whole big scare now going on in the industry. Oh, I can't use HARO anymore. I shouldn't go ahead and list my name there to get interviews. Still a good way to get information about, still a good way for you to get, not links per se, but just to get your brand out there. I don't think you have to worry about Google penalizing you because you were interviewed by some journalist. I think if you push that too much, you might have to worry about it. And on personal experience, I get interviewed fairly often, and I would say 80% of those interviews just take what I have to say and never quote me.
Yep.
20% of those 20%, I would say 10% mention me without links. And then maybe another 10% might mention me with a link, or maybe not even with a link. So maybe even 2% mention me with a link. I don't even know. But it's very rare for me to get a link out of that.
Yeah, I have very similar experience with it than you do, Harry or Barry. And again, like any other link, you gotta, ask the reporter where it's going and make sure that site's not bad.
All right. Anybody else want to talk or no? Anybody see interesting news? Do you want to think about it? I'll say something else. Oh, there we go. Josh. He's getting online. Let him talk.
And gone.
Not Josh.
He's gone. He's afraid.
I have another kind of bigger topic that I could mention.
Yeah, but once Josh gets on, we're kicking you off.
Oh, Josh is coming back.
So go ahead. Go ahead and ask a question until Josh gets back.
So, we had some thought around, what is everybody, this isn't so much a question, but, what does everybody think about, whether we want to call it negative SEO or bullying, but, Google bullying, like, the environment that Google's creating in link world right now, do we feel like it's creating just such a prime environment for negative SEO to be done on sites easily?
Josh can't answer that question.
That was directed to you, Josh. No one else.
I'm doing negative SEO. Is that why?
Well, do we feel like this is just going into a worse and worse place with the ability? I understand the concerns around spam, but it makes it so easy to just spam other people's sites. It's horrible.
It certainly seems to be going that way if you talk to Matt.
Yeah.
Who talks to Matt? Nobody gets to talk to Matt.
Yeah. And how do you navigate this?
Only really annoying people who bug him a lot get to talk to Matt.
Yeah, even Google themselves admitted that there is a chance of negative SEO, and if they admit that, then obviously it's more of a problem than what they're admitting. So
Yeah.
I think that's the easy answer. I would like to talk about Josh.
Nice.
Josh, why is
Hey.
Google unethical?
They're unethical because they think they have the moral authority to disenfranchise webmasters, to intentionally go out of their way to disenfranchise webmasters, and they don't.
So one example, when we were talking
What do you
on
mean that they don't?
They
What?
don't. They think they have the moral authority to intentionally disenfranchise webmasters, to purposely go out of their way to remove the livelihood from people, and they don't. No one does. That's an unethical thing to do.
It's manipulation.
That it's equivalent to
Well-
someone getting up on your face and yelling at you, and instead of just backing away or pushing them away, you go right to the shotgun to the face.
All
It's
right, so
excessive force.
I want Sash to reply, but so for example, let's say I go ahead and create a really spammy site. I
Yeah.
manipulate it so that somebody searching for Mickey Mouse clicks on the first result and gets to some porn site.
Here we go. Yeah.
Google goes ahead and penalizes the site, removes it from their index. Is that unethical of Google?
Of course, you give me the hardest example to answer. In the case where other people are being harmed, then I would say no.
Okay, so let's give another example. You go ahead and you have a website that might be, I don't know, about blue widgets, but you really only sell, you have a website about blue widgets, but you also want to get traffic to your site for red widgets, but you don't sell red widgets, you only sell blue widgets. But you want to somehow lock people in to like convince them that they should buy your widgets even though they're searching for other widgets. Google goes ahead and sees that the site's maybe cloaking or doing some deceptive thing to encourage Google to rank their site for something they don't necessarily sell. Is that unethical?
Okay, so let me go back and clarify my last answer. The net effect, you have to read my, obviously ethics and morality is a large subject, and I have a 600-page book that tries to detail my view of it. So without getting into my 600-page book, and I'll try consolidate that as much as possible, but realize you asked me, because you're smart, and we've debated this, so you know just what to ask me to make it difficult for me to answer. Regarding the child porn example you mentioned previously, if Google's intention is to purposely disenfranchise those people, then yes, it was immoral. However, it would be more immoral to leave it on the SERP because it hurts that many more people, including the children that were affected in it. So just because...
That's a good point. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. But what about you have 5 people selling exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And one person's using manipulative techniques in order to beat out the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Is it immoral for Google to push the one that ranking number 1 using techniques that are against their guidelines, push them down to number 5? Is that immoral?
If Google's express purpose is to go out of their way to remove the livelihood for a person, then yes, whatever they're doing is immoral.
Right. Let's come at this from the other end a second, right? Google is a private concern, right? It's a private company. I mean, it's not like, it's not subject to anyone's judgment really, bar itself. I mean, it's like me in my house. You come into my house, you do something I don't appreciate, yeah, I'm going to throw you out. Job done. Meanwhile, you can put this into all sorts of commercial scenarios as well, and the point ultimately here being is that Google's accountable to no one bar Google as far as who and how it treats these sites in its index. right? And let's not also forget
sorry,
that
Sash, I couldn't disagree more.
ultimately Google's client is the searcher, not the webmaster.
No,
You know,
no.
so Google has to serve the searcher.
No, I'm sorry, Sash. I couldn't disagree more. One, Google doesn't serve the searcher. Google serves themselves. So even if Google did serve the searcher, that does not justify their action, right?
Right. So if Google, right, if the public, they're the people using Google, turn around and go, you know what, this is crap. We're not using this anymore. Let's all use DuckDuckGo or whatever. Yeah. Google loses market share. So it's in their interest, no matter how self-serving they are and how much it's in their interest to keep the shareholders happy. And let's not forget that if they don't keep their audience happy, they're toast. They're done.
Well,
because the audience will desert. You know. So from that point of view, you can turn this any way you want, but the buck stops with the target audience, with the billions of people using Google.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely, Sash, with that. Again, let me make it perfectly clear, because some people on my article seem to really misunderstand what I was saying, so I want to make it clear. From a business perspective, yes, I agree entirely. It was absolutely stupid in the Google SERP basket. That was risky, a dumb business decision.
Break it up now.
Sorry, it was a dumb business decision for people to put all their eggs in the Google search basket, but that's completely besides the point. I'm not saying Google is obligated to give anyone rankings. I'm not saying anyone is entitled to the rankings that they previously enjoyed. All I am saying is that if Google's express purpose is to go out of their way to make algorithms that will purposely disenfranchise people, which is what Matt has admitted on more than one occasion, then they are immoral. That is not the moral high road. That they don't have the moral authority to do that, to purposely remove the livelihood of people. They don't have. They have the. Of course, they have.
I'm hearing a bunch of political spin. I mean, okay, purposely disenfranchise people. What is the criteria on which and through which people are being purposely disenfranchised? Who is purposely being disenfranchised? Right? It's like you're disenfranchising people. Great, but meanwhile, the site that is taking your ranking because you've just been dumped to number 20 is certainly not going to feel disenfranchised. It's not like the first page is suddenly empty because everybody's been penalized. It's like some lose, some gain.
Of course.
So it's Google also working to purposely enfranchise other sites? And if so, what's the criteria by which this is being done?
I'm not saying that.
Sorry, Michael? I think that was the most articulate way to put it.
No, but I think what Josh is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Josh is saying when Google specifically does it to hurt somebody for the sake of hurting somebody, not for the sake of protecting their algorithms or protecting the search engine, but a manual action where somebody's doing something specifically to hurt somebody. That's what you have objection to.
Yeah, manual action and Penguin, the fact that it lasts so long, that it's so hard to fix. They're making algorithms with the express purpose of disenfranchising those endeavors, those black hat endeavors, because they've deemed that black hat is unethical, and they have the audacity to try and take the moral high road and dictate what is ethical or not.
I don't think Google's defining what's unethical or illegal or whatever it might be. I think Google has said these things are hurting our search quality, hurting the search results, and
there's
there's a reason for them to do that.
They call it search quality standards, not search ethics standards.
I think the difference is they're doing it not to hurt them. They don't care about I'm hurting this guy or that guy. Matt Cutts doesn't say, we can't wait to go ahead and hurt him. Maybe you disagree with that. I don't personally think Matt Cutts is like, I'm going to go get that guy. And he has said he likes to break the spirits of Black Hat. But not specifically people. He doesn't like people. He wants to change the mindset of people who are spamming Google. Not necessarily.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's the difference, meaning if Google was going ahead and doing this as a way to just hurt people because they enjoy hurting people, but like Sash said, two sides get hurt, two sides get benefit from that. And the searcher always benefits from that, almost always.
Yep.
So it has to, well, almost, yeah, I mean, there are hiccups and glitches, yes, of course.
So, yes, of course. When somebody goes down, somebody goes up. So I'm not saying they're not doing good things, but then again, I don't think they're not benefiting us all as much as they would like us to believe they're benefiting us. But that's besides the point. My point is very simple, that Google is intentionally making algorithms that purposely and intentionally try and make it too expensive for businesses to operate or cut off their revenue by removing them from page 1 down to some other page. That is, they're purposely trying to disenfranchise businesses. They're purposely trying to remove the livelihood from people who are doing black hat. And that's simply immoral. It's excessive.
I'm sorry. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Do continue.
No, you're going to have to explain why you made that big outburst now.
Well, they're purposely disenfranchising people
Yes.
that are doing bad things, that are breaking the quality guidelines, and I mean, the quality guidelines have been in existence since 2001. They have been, okay, in the beginning they were a little bit ambiguous because Google didn't really, fully see what measures black hats would take. This is why the guidelines have evolved, and it's always been the black hat's first excuse since I can remember. I mean, more than a decade ago, it's like, well, Google has moved the goalposts. It's like they've changed the game. Google has never once changed the game. Google has never once changed its quality standards. All they've ever done is just narrow down and focus on the new techniques and be more specific about the stuff that is counter to the guidelines. Now, the guidelines themselves are these days becoming very, very clear. About what's quality and what's not quality. Yeah, it's not. It's like, that's it. We're gonna pummel you now because we feel like coming and hurting you. It's like, don't do this shit, and otherwise it may have negative consequences. I mean, I'm failing to see the ethical dilemma here.
And it's always in the interest of the searcher. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Satch.
That's it.
I am a little disappointed in the glibness that both yourselves are playing. No, let me respond.
Josh.
Let me respond.
Oh, no, go for it.
I'm not saying they changed the guidelines. I'm not saying Google is obligated to give anyone any rankings. From a business perspective, I agree with you 100% that the guidelines have been very clear, and they were eventually going to crack down on it, and it was pretty dumb to put all your eggs in that basket. That is not the point. That is not the point.
Right.
The point is that it is unethical when they purposely try and make penalties to punish people. They're purposely, Matt Cutts admitted in 2 separate videos last year, they're trying to make black hat too expensive to do, right? That is disenfranchising people. That is their express plan. Now, you emotionally agree with this, but that doesn't mean you're right.
No, you're breaking up. I didn't catch that last part.
I said you emotionally agree with this position, but that doesn't make it right. You said damn right as if they have some right to do so. They don't. No one has the right to disenfranchise somebody else. It happens all the time. Of course it happens all the time. I'm not naive. It doesn't make it morally right.
So, Josh, is your solution just to completely would your solution not be to put a manual web spam penalty on those and just to have you be decimated in terms of algorithm?
I don't have a technical solution. I refuse to be drawn into another technical debate the way Matt drew me into a technical debate. That's not the point. I don't have to provide a solution. I can provide some solutions, but only under the caveat that I don't have to make my argument.
The the thing is, right, and I've done this in the Webmaster Central forum for what 8 years now, and I am now I've become a specialist in cleaning up after black hats and specifically addressing and fighting manual actions. Okay, I have spent the last, I don't know, I guess 18 months since it's kind of really become apparent that the aftermath of black hat tactics, particularly link building, is a field that's going to become more and more predominant, and so I've seen now for a prolonged period of time what happens, and what the black hats actually do to try and get the ranking. And to see, the thing is, ever since I've become an SEO, and I don't really like calling myself an SEO because that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of got a sticky, dirty feel to it these days. But it's always been my first and foremost objective has always been to achieve sustainable rankings for my clients. Okay,
I agree.
I try to get stuff up there long term. That's the goal.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Most of the black hats, and I've outed quite a few, and I've dealt with a load, and it's like more than I can count. But most of the black hats are not in the game to serve their customers. Yeah, you want to talk about self-serving? That's the black hats. That's the let's extract as much money as we humanly can from the client, right? It will get you ranking. We may only get you ranking for 3 days, but hell yeah, we'll get you ranking. Thank you very much. And it's a form of extortion.
I agree.
Right? Because once it becomes apparent that the stuff we have done, and I've seen so many mom and pops ruined by it, once it becomes apparent that the stuff we have done has now hurt the client, instead of going, oh shit, yeah, you know what, we got this wrong, so sorry. It's like, well, Google moved the goalpost. You need to pay us more money to get you. What? Excuse me for a second? Have you at any moment considered and looked at the morality of the people we are dealing with here? You're talking about Google being unethical? Look at the other side, for God's sake, man.
I completely agree. I think shady business tactics are equally immoral, and charlatans who are hurting other people's sites are immoral, and I would lump Google into that category. So your argument, I'm sorry, Sash, I agree with your argument, but it doesn't touch the argument that I said previously. It actually agrees with me. Google and other black hats are doing shady business tactics, and it's immoral.
Google and other black hats. There's an interesting one. Okay, qualify that one a second.
In my article.
Okay, that was fun. I guess we should move on. No, that was entertaining. I enjoyed that. It's just interesting that.
Well, I'm here to entertain.
It's just interesting that you're saying in some extreme examples it would be okay because it's not hurting somebody. If it's hurting somebody, then it's okay for Google to go ahead and take action, right?
No, it would still be evil. I said in my article, choosing the lesser of evils is still choosing evil.
Which is why you chose to evilly or immorally, which you said in your article, repeat a private conversation because it was lesser evil.
No, I didn't repeat any of the things he asked me not to repeat.
Ouch.
I didn't repeat any of the things he didn't ask me to repeat.
Okay, fine.
She went on content marketing for this week.
But by definition, Google having a quality algorithm that looks at manipulative techniques is lesser evil. It's an evil, you're saying, but it's a lesser evil.
And going back to your last point, Barry, if I was having a private conversation with a child and they mentioned to me that they were being abused or molested, even though I'm throwing their parents under the bus, so to speak, it would be far more immoral not to bring it up to the proper authorities.
Of course, just the same thing as you have
It's
Disney.
an extreme example, but it's the exact same thing. Matt literally said to me, and I quote, "I want to put SEOs out of business," end quote. Now, I don't know if he was being facetious when he said this. This was after the end of the conversation. I don't know if he was joking for sure. He won't answer any of my tweets or posts to clarify, which is why I call him Godot. It's like waiting for Godot. So if he wants to clarify, if he actually wants to put SEOs out of business, but he's for. And he also mentioned the conversation that he wanted to clean up the industry and essentially do other things that would make things difficult for SEOs. So I didn't repeat, and I haven't just repeated any of those things he told me not to repeat. But quite frankly, if someone is doing something immoral, I'm going to repeat it.
Okay. So again, is there a concept of, you're talking about, so somebody being immoral, but yet somebody else being more immoral, and then the lesser immoral is the way to go, right?
If those are the only choices you have, yeah.
So technically, is not what Google's doing when there's Disney porn in the index, kids are clicking on it, is that not the lesser evil?
Yes. It doesn't make it right.
Okay, so...
It's still an unfortunate, regrettable thing that they have to go and disenfranchise a person, even though that person is a monster doing child...
So you said they have to. So when you have
but
to...
I still think they should do it.
So you said they should and they have to. So
And
what
that
are
would
they
be the
supposed to do?
more moral thing, but not perfectly moral.
So what are they supposed to do if there's no perfectly
Stop
moral...
laughing, Sash.
What are they supposed to do if there's no perfect solution?
I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this.
I didn't say there was ever a perfect solution.
So why is it such a big deal if they come up with guidelines, they make it as clear as they can, they keep making it clear over time, he provides a tremendous amount of videos, he describes that he wants to break the spirits of black hats. He's
Why is it a big deal if the police beat the crap out of someone when they arrest them?
That's completely different.
That's not different at all.
Irrelevant.
Of course it is.
That's not different at all. There's dealing with a threat, and then there's going way above and beyond.
Google has different levels of
beyond.
Google has different levels of how they're going to deal with certain threats. They'll ignore links.
Yeah.
They'll demote sites to certain pages. They'll completely remove stuff. They'll add warnings to them. They'll send out notifications. They have different levels of penalties.
The final penalty is the manual one.
So I think they do some type of level. Obviously, they're not 100% perfect, like you know. But what I'm trying to explain is Google thinks they're doing the lesser evil, I guess, in your definition.
Yes, and choosing the lesser of evils is still choosing evil.
But they have to, right?
No, they don't.
You said you have to when it comes to reporting a...
Okay, for illegal activities, for child porn, sure.
For protecting their business. Somebody comes into your house with a gun about to shoot you, could you shoot them first?
Yeah.
That's illegal.
Okay.
Somebody going ahead in the mall, trashing a public mall, and there's nobody around, could you do something about that?
That one's tricky. It depends on your family, and if your family would miss you if you died. If you're like a ninja and you can take them out really easy, you think you...
I am not a ninja. Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand it, because I don't study this.
You're asking great, perfectly valid, and very intelligent questions, as you typically do, that usually cut to the heart of the matter. I know it makes the waters muddy, but no matter how muddy it makes the waters, purposely going out of your way to disenfranchise people is still morally wrong.
But
even if it's wronger to leave them alone, it's still morally wrong.
Okay, but you're agreeing that in some cases, and in many cases probably, they have to do something to, one, protect their searchers, two, protect their business.
See.
I didn't want to do this, but it is, of course, entirely possible that they could promote content without purposely trying to penalize any content.
They are working on that. Matt Cutts himself said...
Ignoring child porn. So ignoring child porn. So I agree with you there that they have to. It's illegal. They have to get rid of it. It's terribly immoral. And hate like Nazi stuff, all that stuff. I totally agree with all that. But if they go out of their way to disenfranchise those people, yeah, they're two wrongs don't make a right.
Okay, but you keep saying the same thing, but I'm trying to understand, in a situation that they're in, you made it out like they are really, really, really being evil. And
Well, they're disenfranchising small mom and pops who are not child.
I'm gonna have to later on really watch this video back and count the number of disenfranchised.
We don't have much more time, but I'm just trying to get because you seem really, really upset and calling them really, really evil. But in a sense, what they're really doing is they're doing, in many cases, the lesser evil. And Matt Cutts announced that he is working on an algorithm that does promote different things. They do have algorithms that promote certain things.
Lots,
they're working on by promoting things will be pushed down, which might look like a demotion.
Yeah, I agree.
There we go again with the quality of the search result vis-a-vis the actual searcher. We're back here.
I understand that, but I'm trying to say that what we might think, if you're okay with promotion, then what we might see as promotion might look as demotion, as disenfranchising something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all. I really think it's all about the intent. You know, if they're just trying to promote the best content, which is what they say they do, if that's all they're really trying to do, then that's another thing entirely. But they have expressly said that they want to penalize content, they want to punish black hats, and that they want to disenfranchise people doing black hat stuff, or people that might even be doing black hat stuff. The collateral damage is an issue, and it's not a minor thing. People have lost their jobs, people have lost their businesses. I'm not really upset. I'm minorly upset. I'm more upset that people argue with me and say I said things I didn't say. But yeah, I mean it's not a minor thing if you're one of the people who lost their job or lost their business. And Barry, I know you know this. You've posted articles yourself that you feel sorry for these people who've lost their jobs and lost their businesses. And if you look at the 150 or so comments on the article, I would say probably 140 of them are all people who agree and say, yeah, either I lost my job or I lost my business, or I agree this is unethical. And just because they agree with me doesn't make my position right. But I'm just saying that I'm only mentioning that to say that it is a bigger issue than a lot of people think.
Okay. I think this is a very interesting conversation, to be honest. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Josh.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure debating with you, Sash and Barry.
Awesome. I mean, we're about 3 o'clock, so I don't know if anybody else wants to bring anything else up in terms of the SEO world, but this was fun.
Did you guys think Matt Webber
Oh, it was. It was.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. That was interesting.
Josh, you were saying?
Do you think Matt will ever respond? He usually tries to debunk these things pretty quickly. I'm surprised he hasn't said something.
The problem, I think, personally, is that Matt's reach is a lot larger than the SEO community, and I don't think people outside the SEO community would fully understand the concepts behind what you were saying, both on a technical level and an ethical level. And he probably, if I were him, I wouldn't want to go ahead and address it because I wouldn't want it to go beyond the SEO community, who would actually be, on some level, be able to really understand what's going on.
So the answer is no.
I don't know. Matt's a smart.
There's truth there.
Matt's a really smart guy, as you know, so I don't know what he'll do. But I think it'll be interesting for him to watch this video, so I don't know.
Well, if I disappear from the face of the planet, it was nice knowing you guys.
You're not going anywhere.
I hope not. I'm going to Vancouver this weekend. That's where I'm going.
Dangerous city these days. Dangerous city.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so I guess, Sash, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we've pretty much said all we're gonna say on this. So it's our hour is pretty much up, so I guess I'll take this off the air. I'll let somebody else take point next week, and I'm sure we'll have, well, more interesting discussions. I mean, I was going to bring up the whole AdSense thing, but it turns out we don't have time this week. So, yep, I'll take it off the air. Thanks, guys. See you all later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.